Hold on. I'm about to do this dance reel. Hold
on. Carol Baskin killed her husband, whacked him. Can't convince me that.
What up, cool nerds? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna be talking about Tiger King. Now the show's been out for a month already, and I feel like everyone and their mom has already watched it.
Am I the only person on this earth that hasn't watched the Tiger King yet?
Whether you watch the show or not, there's so much to wrap your head around. I was coming to the show thinking there's gonna be all these crazy people trading these illegal big cats, but there was so much more than that. And since I'm thinking this is just a regular documentary and these people are just trading cats illegally, the feds are just gonna raid the compound and the cats are gonna live happily ever after.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
But there's about 8 episodes, and I'm gonna let y'all know right now, there's a progression level of how weird and strange this gets each episode. At the end of episode 1, you're like, bro, Netflix, what are you doing? This is getting crazy. How is she mad at him? She's doing the same thing that he did, but in smaller cages. What did I just watch? Is this a documentary? Is this real life? And before this, I decided to get off of Facebook because I didn't want to see any spoilers. So after I watched the show, I get on, I look at the timeline, I see you know what, then I see Tiger King. That's it. There was a Tiger King meme for every second, every hour, for every day of the week.
Carol Baskin killed her husband, whacked him. Can't convince me that it didn't happen. Fed them to tigers, they snacking.
You could not escape it. You had people either hating Joe Exotic, Carol Baskins, or both. Or you just had a whole bunch of people turn to animal rights activists. 2 episodes in, and I could not finish this. What about the animals?
Why are you crying?
This was being talked about so much, some people forgot they were on lockdown. People were just so angry after the documentary. They were just ready to put their 2 cents in. I swear, people were just standing by their Facebook pages, just hitting that refresh button, waiting for somebody to have a different opinion just so they could argue. People were starting Facebook groups, meme pages, and these things were going viral, just straight blowing up. And the crazy thing about it is that 3 months in, because I believe the documentary came out in March, we already on lockdown, and Netflix was like, you know what, we're gonna drop this hot fire on you. And after you're done watching the show, you feel a certain type of way about most of the people on it. Even after you finish the show, not one thing in this documentary makes sense. For instance, someone in this show got partially fatality. They got their whole arm ripped off, or half their arm ripped off. And then they were like, you know what, after the hospital, a couple hours, I'm gonna go back to work the next day. And that's not even the craziest part, but if I even get the slightest cough before work, you know me, I'm gonna be calling work like, excuse me. And it's not like these people were going back to work because they were being taken care of. You're like, we gotta get this bread. They were getting paid like $20 a week.
What?
And when this whole incident happened, the main person, Joe Exotic, that this whole documentary was revolving around, went to the back and got an EMT jacket on, like he was the field mecca of an MMO, like he was gonna have extra healing powers.
I can feel the power!
And he was just taking his sweet old time, all nonchalant about it. Hey y'all, so we got a slight problem. We had an incident in the back. Someone just lost their arm. They might bleed out, but on the other hand, they might grow it back like Piccolo. Probably not though. But if y'all do want to come back at another date, or if y'all want to stay here before we clean it up or something, or we just give you a gift card for next time. So let's get back to the main story. The main story is that Joe Exotic, the main person of this show, has this private zoo, and he has all these animals, not just big cats. He has a whole bunch of different animals at this zoo, and his arch nemesis, Carol Baskins, is trying to stop him. So you're thinking to yourself, good on Carol Baskins, because what Netflix always does in these like documentaries is they try to make these crazy eccentric characters look good. And Joe got a really outgoing personality. He seems to really love these cats and take care of them. Then when you start watching the documentary, it's like, wait a second, some of this stuff seems a little sus. They were trying to make Joe Exotic look like Pain of the Zoo World. What? You start realizing that Joe ain't taking care of these animals like he should be. He got them eating great value Walmart meat off this truck, and then he started a pizza company where there's Meat Lovers Pizza that's still the same great value meat from Walmart.
I need some pizza.
So now Netflix got the whole world thinking, all right, Carol Baskins, do what you do. You gotta take Joe down. But before Carol Baskins could put on her little superhero cape, there's a little backstory on Carol Baskins.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Carol and Sapphire here in the background. And for today's daily update, I'm just going to tell you what I've been doing. So I have walked around the sanctuary. I took a look in at the Bobcat Rehab Hospital.
They basically start off Carol Baskin's story like she's a homewrecker and her first husband ain't nowhere to be seen. So now you just sitting here like, I thought she was the good guy. Netflix probably likes to make these people look worse than they are, and we just feed into it, but I'm here for it. So Carol Baskin stole a whole family's husband, father, all that at a very young age. And how it happened is that the husband was riding around the block because he needed to blow off some steam, and he was like, hey, you want to get in my car? And she was like, no. And he was like, hey, you want to get in? She was like, no. And he was like, hey, I got a gun. You can hold this gun to me just in case I do anything crazy. And she was like, okay, I guess I can do that. And she held the gun next to this stranger, a driver on the block, and they fell in love. And it was curtains after that. So they got married. His wife and his kids were a thing of the past. Like, who needs those, you know? And so they got married, and he had money. I think they said he was worth close to 10 million or something like that. They don't know the exact number, but he had money. But he also had a love for animals, just like Joe Exotic. So they also got into the breeding and selling of animals. But remember, this is when Carol was younger, so she probably had a change of heart. Basically, as the marriage progressed, I think he was like a century or a millennium older than her, but they had a big age difference, and things got a little bit like rocky. And at one point in time, the husband tried to get a restraining order on her, and that didn't go through. But a little bit after that, he was nowhere to be found. People get left and ghosted all the time, but in this case, there was way too many different variables. And one of the biggest variables is that they have full-grown tigers on their zoo. So the husband's out of the picture, and guess who inherited everything?
Give me your money!
So with this loot drop from her missing husband, she was able to start her whole Saving the Animals Foundation. And that's just one relationship in the show, because everyone else in the show got 10 wives, 10 girlfriends, 10 husbands, all that. It's just crazy. In the beginning of the series, Netflix got you leaning towards Joe Exotic. He got this bubbly personality, he's taking care of the animals, but then you start realizing, is he really taking care of the animals? And outside of doing that, he's got a crazy lifestyle. So they introduced Carol Baskin, and you think she's about to be all good, but she ain't much better. Now, I'm not gonna go into every person on the show, but they had a whole bunch of different breeders on there as well, and most of them were bigger than Joe Exotic. And their quick side stories were worse than Joe's, and they were selling celebrities all types of animals. So y'all, I'm not gonna talk about this too much more, because there's probably way too many things that are not YouTube friendly, YouTube appropriate. You know how they like to demonetize it, brother, and I'm not here for that. But I do want to let y'all know I got a video coming up with my sister where we try some new cereals, and it don't go too well. But another thing I want to talk about is a video that we got coming up this week as well, or it might be next week, but I'll try to do it this week. But just watch.
Are all nerds as good as you?